Hello there, football fans. Welcome to the Mercurial Trequartistas Gamecast, your weekly dose of Premier League passion, predictions, and proper football talk. By way of introduction, I'm Datan. Joining me is my co-host, the man who spots the details that explain all the headlines. Mark, how are we feeling?
Well, unlike a whole load of Premier League bosses, I'm still in my job, unless you've heard otherwise. So, yeah. Uh,
We will be discussing that exact topic very, very shortly. So that's what's on the menu today. Alongside that, as you all know, there's no Premier League this week. It is the FA Cup, so we won't be having the fantasy football section, but we will have our obscure facts section as well. But let's start with talking points for the Premier League in the last few days, in the last week or so since our last episode. Mark, a lot of changes, big changes as well. Two clubs in particular. Who should we start with? Let's start with Spurs and Thomas Frank. He'd faced a lot of pressure. The results hadn't gone as well as people were expecting, and we had covered this very topic many a time. Thomas Frank has gone, and they brought in an interim coach, Igor Tudor. This was announced on Friday. Tudor has had an interesting career so far. I think he's managed in Croatia, in Italy, and a few other countries. But any thoughts on him, first of all? And after that, we can go back to a Thomas Frank and his tenure.
yeah, as far as Tudor's concerned, there's been a lot of sackings. He's had a lot of jobs in a short space of time. I think he's generally he generally does get a bit of a sort of new manager bounce, but that's a lot of clubs. I think was it something like eight to nine where he's been sacked, and that's since 2016, 2017. And then the other one, he resigned. So this looks like a bit of a gamble. I still think they're going to stay up. They have the players, but bringing in a non-Premier League experienced manager who hasn't lasted a long time in the majority of his jobs in the last, what, 9, 10 years. This this is dicey. I wouldn't expect him to be the full-time manager, I don't think, at the start of next season. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot tighter than it was going to be before. I know the fans had kind of turned the fans had kind of turned against Frank. But this is this is a big pressure moment now for Spurs. They need something and they need it quick. And what's the next game? Arsenal? Easy, right?
Well, I mean, I would echo those sentiments exactly. I think they've just made it a lot harder for themselves, and we've both said and agreed that Thomas Frank, he would have kept them in the Premier League. But what their long-term plans are, we don't know. But with a view to the future, so Tudor is an interim coach. So he's here until the summer. Who do you think Spurs might go for long term?
Uh, well, I mean, looking at the Spurs fan reaction, I mean, I think the dream ticket seems to be Pochettino again. Whether that happens or not, who knows? I mean, he's still got a bit of a job to do over the summer. Uh, and do you go back? It's it's not the same team. It's not the same squad that he's going back to that he left. Uh, I'm I'm not sure it would be a good move for him. I think a brilliant move for Spurs if they can pull it off. But how do you tempt managers to go to that job now? You know you're dealing with the board that are responsible for a lot of the worst moments, you know. So you don't go through that many managers in that short a time if there isn't an issue or a set of unrealistic expectations from the board. I think they're going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat here to get a big name to sign up. They're still a good club. They're still a big name club, but they're just ringing the alarm bells. Who goes there now thinking they're going to have time to build a team?
Mm.
You know, Frank could have built a team. Nuno could have built a team. Ange could have built a team. You know, these aren't managers that don't know what they're doing, but the managers that haven't been able to operate under the framework that's already there. And I think that's a big concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you say, Poch is the sort of person that the fans want to go for. That's speaking from the heart. I think Poch, having left Spurs, I mean, he's been at PSG. He's got a pretty plum job with the US national team, and if he can do well with them over the summer, that will only raise his stock further. I mean, he might even be tempted to stay on as an international coach elsewhere, and there will be no shortage of offers for him at international level. But would he go back to Spurs? I mean, on a human level. Um, I mean, he came back to Chelsea. He had a short tenure there, and I think all of us were very, very shocked when I mean, his services were disposed of. And is he keen to come back to England again and sort of back to Spurs where he was for many, many years? I don't know. I think it's a very, very hard sell for the Spurs board. But having said that, Poch obviously has quite an emotional tie to the club. He's made no bones about that. So let's see. Any other candidates? Is there anyone else who springs to mind? A certain Premier League and, well, a certain guy who managed in the Premier League and the Scottish League twice. He's currently plying his trade in Saudi Arabia, I do believe. Is that right?
The Premier League needs Brendan Rodgers, surely. I I don't know. I think it could be it could be a decent angle, sort of seeing Rodgers at Spurs. I think again, any manager coming in, they're going to need time. They've recruited for so many different managers.
Mm.
You've got a very eclectic mix of players there that play to all kinds of different playing styles and strengths. But yeah, I don't think the Premier League's seen the last of Brendan Rodgers. He will be back definitely.
Mm. Yeah.
Whether it's Spurs,
Hmm.
who knows? We'll have to watch that one. Uh, but yeah, at the moment, I'm sure he's enjoying the sun, sea, sand, and money of of the Saudi league.
Also in the Premier League, there's a lot of teams whose coaches have done very well. We've spoken about them in the last few months. So Iraola at Bournemouth, Ollie Glasner is leaving Palace, even Hertzler as well. I think in years gone by, he's the kind of profile of coach that's, might be tempted to sort of take the Spurs job. Do you think any of these three?
I mean, the short answer is no. I think the manager market's going to get incredibly competitive. Real Madrid will be looking for somebody. If they're not sticking with Arbeloa, Luis Enrique's possibly leave. Well, he's pretty much coming to the end of his contract at PSG. Um, there's severe speculation over whether Slot will be sticking on for a third year. There are some big name clubs that will be looking for big name managers, and for Spurs to be trying to recruit in that environment. I mean, Pep might not be at City too long. I mean, at some point that reign will come to an end too. And if you're looking to recruit when so many of these big name clubs are also competing with you, you've got to be some draw to pick Spurs over what are typically considered the league favourites. So it's a dicey time, I think, for trying to recruit. I think bringing it into him now kind of suggests that they might have the right on a coach after the World Cup, see if they can sway somebody there. But yeah, I think there's going to be some fun negotiations coming up, and who knows? Anybody could literally end up anywhere right now. But
Mm.
yep, the
Yeah.
managerial merry-go-round is in full swing, and we've
Yes.
just hit February.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like people pushing it, and soon it will gather even more speed. But I mean, we will move on to the other big club who had a big change this week, but just two nano points, Slot and Pep. So let's start with Pep. I mean, as you say, the rumours are, and we hear them more and more, that Pep might be moving on at the end of the season. If he goes, the manager that I think might be stepping into his shoes, and they are big shoes to fill at City, will be Vincent Kompany. He's cut his teeth for the last season and a half at Bayern, done incredibly well. Bayern are playing amazingly well this season in particular, and I'm sure the City hierarchy, they have their eye on him. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you could totally see company going there as ex-player. I'd like to see what he can do a little bit longer though, staying at a club for longer and seeing just how far he can take him. I personally would not be surprised if it's not Luis Enrique that's in the frame. If it's happening this season, uh, I think Xabi Alonso has also been linked with the City job, but I don't know. I kind of feel like the stars are sort of lining up a little bit for Luis Enrique to be ending up at City
Mm.
in a post Pep world.
Yeah. And the other nano point Slot, being under a lot of pressure, he had a great result against Sunderland. I mean, the unbeaten record that Sunderland have had all season, that was finally broken by Slot's Liverpool. But obviously, we have said many a time that this is a transition season for Liverpool, and kind of the issues that we see them show week in, week out, people thought these issues would be on display in Slot's first season rather than his second season. But that can't take away from the fact that results haven't been that great. And though the Liverpool hierarchy are patient, and certainly the fan base is very patient, the support at the ground in particular seems to be very much in favour of Slot. I mean, I think most of the rumblings are coming from the media, but where there's smoke, there's fire. What do you think about Slot and his position at Liverpool? Is it safe or is it quite tenuous at the moment?
I mean, this has probably been the season that people were expecting to have in his first year. So to turn around and win the Premier League, uh, it was definitely above the expectations. But they did it well. It was a solid year, solid campaign. This year hasn't really gone to plan. There have been extenuating circumstances, which we've covered before. Uh, there's been a lot of injuries. Some of the results have not been good enough. Losing so heavily to teams like Forest and PSV at home, that's put the pressure on. Going out in the League Cup by fielding a significantly weakened team and basically going, we're writing this tournament off. Had shades of Brendan Rodgers playing largely a reserve side against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and that lost a lot of fans there.
Mm.
Now,
Yes.
I know the Champions League is a bit different to the League Cup, but it was still extra unnecessary pressure. The weird thing is they're still in contention for Champions League qualification. Depending on how things go in year, fifth could do it. If an English team wins the Champions League Cup, I mean, you've got a possible situation where there could be six teams in there as well. Um, and they're still in it. They could literally win the Champions League this year, and it makes top four irrelevant anyway. It wouldn't be easy, but you're still in with a chance so long as you're in the draw. And Anfield on a European night is more than enough to, you know, help get a struggling Liverpool team through a tie. Uh, it's difficult to see how a manager could be so under pressure after having such a good first season, but I don't know. It's an awkward one. The most vocal fans seem to be sort of like the internet side of things, which, is generally reactionary anyway. I, I think really there's been a few things this year where I don't think Slot helped himself with some of the comments that he's made, some of the results, uh, a resistance to using youth players in an emergency. Uh, it's an awkward one. I suspect we'll know more a little bit nearer to the end of the season and how that's going. But in a 3-year contract, you'd normally expect extensions to be getting discussed. The fact that we haven't heard anything about that does suggest that there are reservations somewhere within the club behind the scenes, whilst publicly backing him. So yeah, it's an awkward situation, I think.
Yeah.
But say he gets to the end of the season and wins the Champions League, nobody's going to care about losing 3-0 at home to Forest. So it's balancing expectations, I think, on this one. There could still be a decent end to the season, but if there's not, I think that's when the question should be getting asked, not before. So yeah, lots to watch for on that one.
Yeah, just a few quick points there. I mean, the rumours are that the people who sort of run the club in the UK, so I believe it's a chap called Hughes and Michael Edwards, who was brought back in after Klopp announced he was leaving. They are very happy with Slot. I mean, he is their man. But the rumours are that the people higher up the food chain actually, I mean, the actual owners of the club. So these are the people based in Boston. So Tom Werner and John Henry. The rumblings are that they are not so taken with Slot. I mean, it reminds me a bit of this was quite a few years ago, but when they brought in Kenny Dalglish, and again he bought a lot of players, and they finished, I think it was sixth or seventh, I can't quite remember, and they won a League Cup, but they lost an FA Cup final to Chelsea. And they got rid of him. They didn't understand that was a transitional season. Are they going to be more patient with Slot? I think so. And the main reason for this is that Slot has an impeccable record. I think prior to joining Liverpool, he had a win rate of something like 63%, which is hugely impressive. And he was interviewed this week, and he confessed that this has been his hardest season by a mile. And he mentioned during the interview that he'd never lost more than 2 games on the trot. And that record has gone out of the window this season, obviously. But I personally think he's an outstanding coach. He won Liverpool the league. You know, that in itself, someone who's come in and won the league in his first season, if that doesn't merit a, a decent run as a manager in today's world, I don't know what does. And I think Liverpool would be extremely foolish to get rid of him at this point in time. He's going to be an outstanding coach. He is an outstanding coach. And I was saying this to you a few days ago that I suspect he will have a lot of other big name clubs on his CV in the future, the likes of Bayern, Juve, the two Spanish giants. I've absolutely no doubt about this. So if Liverpool, he's still young as a coach. I think he's 47 or 48 years old. So he's approaching his sort of prime as a coach. If Liverpool have any sense, they will keep him on. But football is football. And there's always someone else who the media is harping on about. And, I think Xabi Alonso, he's available at the moment. As you've just mentioned, there will be a lot of clamour for his services. So Spurs will be in, potentially City, Bayern if company moves on, they would be interested in him as well because he's had an outstanding record in Germany. Paris might be up for him also. Who knows?
It is a little bit reminiscent to sort of Dalglish's second season in his second stint at Liverpool. While they were in the cup, the league form wasn't great. There was a lot of draws, um, and they waited it out until after the cups, effectively, before uh, moving him on and going for Rodgers. Uh, if they're doing the same thing here, then again that makes sense because they're still in the FA Cup, they're still in the Champions League, and qualification via the top four or top five still isn't out of it. So yeah, it looks like they are being patient. They're waiting to see how it plays out. And to be fair, I think Liverpool probably do have it. It's within their control. They still have to play Man United and Chelsea,
Hmm.
two teams above them. Get the results there. and then yeah, that gap's gone, and it was a good sequence of results in midweek for them. So
Yeah,
yeah, they've
yeah,
not been marooned from the qualification spots. That's as bad as the run's been this season. It's still there. It's still up for grabs. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, you mentioned that they went for Rodgers after Dalglish. I'm sure the Liverpool board will not be doing the same thing again this time if they decide to dispense
you
with the
don't think they'll go back
services.
to Rodgers? That's a
Um,
bold
I,
claim.
I mean, I think after Leicester won the league and Ranieri said there's more chance of aliens landing in Leicester Square than us, i.e. Leicester winning the league again. If Rodgers were to go back to Liverpool, I suspect again there's more chance of aliens landing inside Leicester Square and going, "Hey, we are here." So yeah, we need to talk about another very very big club who they faced a change. So Forest, I think this is their third change now of the season. Am I correct in saying that? So they've had
They're
Nuno,
on the fourth
Ange.
manager. Whoever comes in now is their fourth manager of the season.
Yeah,
Uh, it sounds like we're playing a repeat episode here because this
yeah.
keeps happening. We only started last year, didn't we?
Well, I mean, we are both fans of Dyche, and I'm amazed that they've got rid of him. I know that you mentioned to me a few days ago that he had a bit of a dig, not an overt dig, but more of a under the
Yeah.
radar dig at the hierarchy. But yeah,
I wouldn't even describe it as a dig. I think it was just an honest assessment of where the club were and what the issues were. And for whatever reason, Baranakis didn't like it, and he's waited for the first chance to go. Off you pop. I don't know. Yeah, just don't get it. Um, Dyche had made the defense hard to score against. They were grinding out results. There were, some decent draws, decent play, and making a team that was threatened by relegation hard to beat, which is what you need to do to stay up. I I thought before it wasn't going to be enough. I thought they were still probably going to slip through the net because I think West Ham's form is absolutely amazing right now. They're going to get out of it. And I thought it was always going to be Forest that would sneak through the net purely because they weren't scoring enough. Um, Now I think that's more of a it's more of a near certainty. To be bringing in your fourth manager is just chaotic. Um, and I kind of, in a way, if they do stay up, it kind of justifies owners just getting rid of managers every couple of months. And I'm not sure that's the way we really need the game going. But yeah, crazy situation there. Fourth manager in a season. Yeah, what a season of absolute carnage and chaos for Forest. The supporters must be just completely befuddled and bemused with all of this because yeah, it just looks absolutely crackers. Uh, and I think the name that they've been linked with, I think is somebody that Marinakis worked before in the Greek league. So yeah,
I
this
I think
is
he's joined. Is it Pereira? He's called. I mean, yeah. I Forest have just shot themselves in the foot. I mean, if the goal, and it should be the goal for Forest, is to stay in the Premier League, why make it harder? Why make it harder? I mean, they are battling the likes of West Ham, Spurs, Leeds, who are safe now. Even Crystal Palace, they are on shaky ground, but they will get through. So, and
mm,
I mean, out of all those teams, Forest are perhaps not playing the best, but as you said rightly, Dyche made them hard to beat. So as long as the defense doesn't let goals in, you've always got a chance of like nicking a goal and sort of winning a game. And if that happens a couple of times and the team gains a bit of momentum, that puts you on course to sort of put together a decent run and stay in the Premier League. But it's crazy. But Marinakis, we've spoken lots about him. It's a bit well. I mean, what can you say?
There's
But
not, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you literally wouldn't put it past him sort of bringing in a fifth manager by the end of the season either, the way it's gone. Ironically, he sacked Nuno because he thought Nuno was going to get him relegated. In the end, he might be right because Nuno's West Ham. They're going to get them relegated at this rate.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But as and when I heard Sean had gone, my first thought was De Zerbi, because he
Yeah.
stepped down from the Marseille job just a few hours earlier. I thought,
Oh, yeah.
him and Marinakis together, it'd be like fireworks. It would be like Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. Seeing those two, it wouldn't last. It would last about 2, 3 weeks tops.
Yeah.
But for the entertainment value. But on a serious note, I mean, if you are a Spurs fan, that's not what you want to see as
No.
well. But Pereira, yeah, I mean, you've got to feel for Forest fans at this point. So you really do. And let's see if they can stay in the Prem. We don't think so. We've been very, very clear about this, and they've made it harder for themselves.
Yeah.
But yes, okay. We need to talk a bit about the relegation battle. So very, very quickly, how are things looking at the bottom of the table after last weekend?
Still saying Burnley gone, despite a good result. It was a good result for them in midweek. Wolves gone, left far too late. And I'm sticking with West Ham getting out and Forest going. That's where I was last week. And
Mm.
after the sacking, I think that's pretty much confirmed it for me that Forest are going to be the ones that slip. I think Spurs haven't necessarily made it more difficult than it should be, and I think they will have a few nervy moments. But yeah, I think when it matters, when it counts, Spurs will be able to get the results that see them safe. But they can't take anything for granted. They've got
Mm.
to get the points on the board. So yeah, that's yeah. It's not really changed for me since last week, other than I'm slightly more certain that Forest will slip through.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of us are singing from the same hymn sheet, so I agree completely with what you've just said. So, well, there you have it. Two takes and enough opinions to spark a full-blown pundit meltdown. We don't have Premier League this week, so there's no set of fixtures to review. But Mark, do you want to say a few words maybe about last week and how things went?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did lose to
Holland
Tate's
FC?
Haaland FC last
Oh,
week,
Violent FC.
so I think that's the first time you've done the double over me as well in Fantasy League head-to-head league. So
Have I?
a
Oh,
tip a
okay.
tip of the hat there.
Thank you. Extremely gracious,
uh,
but I didn't realize that. But it's always like you are one of the hardest people to play in the league each year. So thank you.
Oh, I mean, but most years it's been a bit of a shaky year for me this year, but yeah, there's still time. There's still time. So yeah, and this week playing another version of Haaland FC. This player has captured him, but I think I've got a shout. I have more Arsenal players than this other player has, and they've got a second fixture. So whilst I am chasing down a bit of a lead from the other player, it's doable. I've got Gabriel and Gyökeres still to play. Gyökeres is captain, so I think one goal from Gyökeres next week should do it for me. And then, yeah.
Well, as like Jean-Luc Picard would say, make it so, and then I'm sure that you'll be winning. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if we move on to the obscure facts segment, do you want to go first, Mark? And
Yep. Okay,
yeah.
then. Well, it's FA Cup weekend this weekend, so I've gone with an FA Cup obscurity. This is going back to the first time numbers on shirts were used in England, and it happened in the 1933 FA Cup final between Everton and Manchester City. And then the shirts were numbered 1 to 11 for Everton, and then Manchester City shirts were numbered 13 through to 22 in reverse order, with the goalkeeper starting at 22. So everybody had a different shirt. There were no subs then. And yeah, that was the first time they had been trialed earlier by an Arsenal manager. Herbert Chapman sent his team out with numbered shirts, but the other side didn't have them. So this is the first time that in England that football had numbered shirts for both teams.
Amazing. So it was 1 to 11 and then
Yeah,
12 to 22.
that's right. Yep.
Fascinating. Absolutely
Everton
fascinating.
won 3-0, and
Yeah.
Dixie Dean was number 9. So, yeah.
Everton legend. I mean, he was a legend for them. So amazing, amazing. I can remember, I think it was USA 94 when we were kids. That was the first time that they put the players' names on the backs of shirts. And that was really good because prior
Yeah.
to that, it was just numbers. And it was like, oh, who's that player? Who's that player? But
It was
so
funny seeing him how they could fit McManaman on there or Mixi Patalainen, Kanchelskis.
Alignment
That's why
was
they
a
had
big
baggy
one.
shirts in the 90s. They had longer names.
Yeah, well, I mean, these days, I mean, but players often use abbreviations. I think with Virgil van Dijk, I mean, he just has Virgil, doesn't he, on the back of his
Mm.
shirt? And certainly in fantasy football, he's just listed as Virgil. So, yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I'll do my obscure fact for this week. So it was a story I read a few days ago. It's very, very heartwarming. So it concerns Thomas Tuchel. So when he took over as the coach of PSG, I think from memory this was around 2018. So he and his partner at the time they moved into a house in Paris, and they were allotted housekeepers, someone who would take care of the house for them. And so this lady, she was from the Philippines, and Tuchel and his partner they bonded quickly with the lady. She was a very, very nice lady, and they found that she was very, very hardworking. She would never look at the clock. And as they got to know her, it transpired that she had a child in the Philippines who was very, very sick, and she was saving up enough money to sort of pay for an operation. Upon hearing this, Tuchel he arranged for the operation in a matter of days, and the child, they were fully restored. They became extremely healthy and normal, so that was great. And towards the end of his tenure at PSG, when it looked like he would be removed, um, Tuchel and his partner asked the lady, what's your sort of overarching dream for your life? What do you want to do? And she thought about this and said, well, I'd love to sort of have enough money to sort of build a house in the Philippines so I can stay and take care of my kids and my parents as well. And that would be it. So Tuchel, I don't know if it was just before he left the Paris job or like after, but he arranged to buy her a nice house in the Philippines, and which I thought was a very, very nice and generous thing to do. So I thought that was a lovely story, very, very heartwarming, and it shows you what kind of a guy Tuchel is. Very impressive as a person, and I liked it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a heartwarming obscurity story, and the FA must have heard about it because they've just started out an extension for him as well for England. So yeah,
Seriously, I've not heard this. So has this?
yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
Extension signed yesterday. Yeah, so
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
Tuchel stays on beyond the World Cup.
Well, I mean, we both rate him very highly as a coach. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, uh, fantastic, great news for England. And but it means that he won't be joining a club somewhere in Europe.
Exactly. That's one
In
big name
June.
out of it.
Lovely
Not going to
stuff.
Spurs.
Lovely stuff. So that's all we have time for this week. Please do follow us on social media and do get involved there if you are so inclined. That's all we have time for this week. But till the next time, until all are one.